Good evening, everyone. On behalf of WealthBox, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you joining us for today's webinar, From Dreams to Dollars, a free webinar to master your money. Now, I would like to introduce the speaker, Sumaira Abidi. She is currently a Vice President, Public Relations and Investor Connect at SBI Mutual Fund. We are privileged to welcome Sumaira Abidi, a distinguished expert in financial journalism and investor education, as our keynote speaker for today's session. Sumaira currently serves as the Vice President, Public Relations and Investor Connect at SBI Mutual Fund, where she leads efforts to enhance investor awareness and engagement with over 20 years of industry experience across media and financial services sector. She also brings deep insights into the world of personal finance and mutual fund investing. Before joining SBI Mutual Fund in November 2022, she had an illustrious stint at CNBC TV 18, where she worked for over 11 years. During her tenure, she became a recognized face in financial journalism, hosting, anchoring, and producing several key shows, including Bazaar Morning Call, where she led for more than 6 years. She also made her mark by focusing on investor education, demystifying mutual funds for a wide audience, and breaking several industry stories. Prior to CNBC TV 18, she held editorial and reporting roles at Times Now, NewsX, and India Today. Gaining broad experience across India's leading news networks, in 2020, Sumaira was honored among AIWMI, Association of International Wealth Management of India, Top 100 Women in Finance, a testament to her contribution to the financial sector. She holds a master degree in mass communication from a prestigious AJK Mass Communication Research Center, New Delhi, and a bachelor degree in commerce from Pune University. Beyond finance, she is passionate about Urdu poetry and traveling. Today, Sumaira will help us to decode essential financial concepts and empower us to make smarter investment decisions. Please join me in warmly welcoming Sumaira Abidi. Over to you, Sumaira.
Thanks, Anil. Thanks a lot. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for joining in. I'm just going to start sharing a small, presentation I have prepared, but it's really, something very simple. And if there is any question, we can take it at the end of this. I think this is a webinar, so we will not be able to do a lot of to and fro, which I like to do. But nevertheless, the basics that we want to talk about, three most important things. One is what is, financial planning. The second is, of course, that, savings and is not the same as investing. And the third thing we want to talk about is how to translate, how to take this financial planning into your life's goals. So, before we actually go forward, are you all able to see this? Can somebody confirm if you can see what I'm showing?
Yes, I can see.
All right. Okay. Okay. Have you all heard of this? So the summer is just ending. I'm sure everybody is just returning from their vacations, and I think ICSE schools are starting now. So anyway, it's a good time to, take stock of the crazy stuff that's happened over the summer. So I came across, this news article, which said that there was this mystery flight. So the idea is that, if you want to go on some exotic holiday, you pay the money, you book the tickets, you sit in the flight, but you don't know where you're going. So, if I want to just ask all of you that, would somebody from here, from this group that we are in, would any of you board this flight to a mystery destination? Have any of you thought about it, that would you board this flight? So, I'm sorry, I wish this could have been more interactive, but, in your mind, you know what you're thinking, right? So financial planning is like this, right? It's a GPS for your money. It will help you get from where you are to where you want to be, but you have to know where you're going, right? So just like a lot of us wouldn't board this mystery flight to God knows where, just like that, Why are we happy with, our money just doing something random? We should know exactly where our money is going to take us, right? So this is exactly what financial planning is. This whole concept of knowing what your money should do, what your money can do, and where it will take you. So this is what financial planning is. It is nothing but just the process of understanding what is your income, managing your expenses in a way that you're able to do everything that you want to do, setting financial goals. Now, financial goals is not something very crazy. Every goal, I mean, everything that you want to do in life, any of your dreams, they're a goal, right? My goal is to buy my own house. My goal is to send my son abroad for his education. My goal is to, have a comfortable retired life. The reason we call it a financial goal is because every dream that we have in life, everything that we want to do in life, has a cost attached to it, right? Which is why knowing what this cost is, knowing what this cost will be in the future when you need it, is financial planning, right? Because if I'm going to retire in the next 20, 30 years, what will be the cost of retired life 20 years hence? Which is why our dreams become a financial goals if we are able to correctly attach a value to it. Of course, saving and investing to meet those goals and protecting yourself from risk. But the reason a lot of people get intimidated is because either they keep waiting that I have not yet fully understood what I have to do. Let me first carefully figure it out, then I'm going to do it. Or somebody will be like, I did it, I didn't do a very good job, I'm not at all happy, I'm going to do it again, redo the whole thing. But financial planning is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. And financial planning is less about math and more about mindset. Recently I did a session with Zerodha for there were about 43 women who attended. And a lot of the people had this uh, they were very scared because they said that, I'm not very good at math. I'm not very good at math. How am I going to understand this? Well, you know what? I was never good at math. I'm still not very good at math, but I understand the philosophy of investing. I will always have a calculator or an Excel to do the math for me. But I must understand the behavior, the emotional aspect of investing, the philosophy of investing. I must be able to understand, which is what any of us can understand. So, it's really, what can I say in simple words? It's like meal planning, right? All of us plan the meals in our house, right? You would never think without eating. Sorry, you would never eat without thinking, right? Um, it's likely that if you don't plan your meals, it'll either be unhealthy, expensive, or chaotic. So this planning is giving you a direction. Just like that, if you are not planning your investment very well or your finances very well, things become a little chaotic. So, a few years down the line, you will be feeling stressed. I didn't collect as much as I should have. I didn't do everything I wanted to do in life. I want to quit my job and start a business. I'm not sure how to do it. It's just to control the chaos, right? So, good financial planning will limit the chaos in your life. But to do proper financial planning, one of the things we must understand is, see, you all would have heard both of these words, right? Saving and investing. Normally, we just use these words interchangeably. Somebody will say, oh, I've invested, whatever, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. Somebody will say, oh, I've saved 10, 20 lakhs. But the truth is that saving is not the same as investing. Saving is simply the monthly income minus your expenses. What you earn less what you spend is your saving, right? But investing is actually the intentional act of multiplying your savings to beat inflation. So it has an ultimate target, which is, of course, your goals and all are there, but it must beat inflation, right? So saving is like, how you keep things in the refrigerator for a short shelf life, right? 2 days, 3 days. So, it's safe for those 2, 3 days. It will not rot, but it's not that its nutritional value is improving, right? So, like say something like an emergency fund, short-term goal. So this is can be part of your savings. Investing is like you're going and planting a seed, right? You will take time for that seed to become a tree. It will need sunlight, water, nutrition. Plus, there is always the risk that will this tree continue growing or will this tree sort of wither down? But it can grow into something really magnificent as well, right? So this is the investment. This is a difference between saving and investing, right? So things like investing for your house or your child's education or your own retirement, all of those are part of investing. Now, both are essential, right? It's not that saving is better than investing or investing is better than saving. It's just that saving is, you can say it's about safety. Investing is about growth. So, in other words, every rupee that you have earned is that rupee working to beat inflation, right? Now, it may be, of course, the money which is in savings. We keep sometimes cash at home, we keep cash in just a savings account. You may have an emergency fund, which is, say, in a liquid fund or something. Uh, every single like if you look at it, my savings account, this that may not beat inflation, but collectively is your money beating inflation, right? You must go back and think of it that way, that collectively is your money beating inflation. That's how important, or should I say destructive, inflation really is, right? So if calculated or accounted for well, it can strengthen your financial plan, because when you reach your goals, you're prepared for it. If not handled well, inflation can actually create havoc, because everybody has this tendency to think in absolute terms. So if you ask somebody that how much money do you think you will need when you retire, people will just pluck a number of, oh, I think I'll need 2 crores. Oh, I think I'll need 5 crores. And they keep acting on that. Oh, I'm so close to achieving this 2 crore goal. I think I can retire now. But there must be a intentional calculation. Have you accounted for the inflation? Have you accounted for the difference in your own lifestyle at that time? So this is why. So let me ask you one more question. I know we can't do much back and forth, but let me just provoke this thought in your mind, that when you think you're saving for, say, something like retirement, or your child's higher education, what level of inflation would you be using for your calculation? So, if our latest reading of retail inflation, what we call CPI, is nothing but retail inflation, is 2.82% for May. Would it be safe to assume that 5-6% inflation rate, if you are using to calculate your future goals, is good enough, right? After all, inflation is less than 3. I'm assuming that 5-6% average, say, inflation will continue, and therefore I'm using 5-6%. But if you have agreed with this 5-6%, let me tell you why all your future goals might actually be in a bit of danger, right? So this is what we call that CPI, which is a retail inflation, all the things which people like us use. So the retail inflation number which the government gives us is actually for the lowest common denominator, right? Now, people who are attending this today, probably people who are in the higher middle class, HNIs, ultra HNIs, people like us, we spend a very little, very small proportion of our wealth on what we call the essentials, all your roti, chawal, kapra, the petrol which you used to get from your home to your office. All of these are things which the retail inflation number is made of, right? Now, let me tell you what other things which people like us consume, right? Us and our children. We'll buy luxury bags, right? We want to buy branded clothes, branded shoes. Our kids are doing all sorts of expensive classes, coding and pickleball and whatnot. These are all what we are consuming. And these are not inflating at 2.8 or even 5 to 6%. These are part of what we call the lifestyle inflation or the inflation in higher end or luxury products. And in reality, this is what we consume, right? Banquets for our celebrations, flying to international destinations. This inflation, and you would have noticed it in your own life, right? All of these lifestyle things that we are consuming, the luxury items, high end products, this inflation could be anywhere between 10 to 15%. It's different for different things, but if you see on average, anywhere between 10 to 15%, probably even slightly more. And you may still think that, okay, forget this designer brands and all this. I live a pretty austere life. I don't spend so much on gadgets, clothes, and so on. And therefore, I am not affected by lifestyle inflation. But, you know, you do want a quality education for your child, right? You want the top of the line medical treatment for yourself and your family, right? So if I just take you through it one by one, this is the cost of education inflation in India, right? So the expected rise in tuition fees, this is a slightly dated article. I couldn't get the very latest ones. But the thing is that on a retail level, the inflation in India is falling, but health and education expenses are at a 1 year high. Uh, and this is only India. If you look at the college tuition, I mean, most of us would want to send our kids abroad, right? It's at least those of us who couldn't go to study in the US or Europe want to send our kids abroad. There is a 40 times increase in college fees since 1963. So since some of you went to school since then, college fees has risen 40 times. In fact, in just between 2010 to 23, it's almost 37% increase. So this is how much there is education inflation in India. Then there is medical inflation. So I have, borrowed this chart. Um, the general inflation you can see is below the green line, which is below, and the pink line is the medical trend rate of inflation. So if by 2024 the general inflation was about 4%, the medical inflation was close to 11 to 12%. Um, it's not only that. Sorry. It's not only that this medical inflation is going up, you have to pay more. It affects your financial plan to a very great extent because you are not accounting for all the expenses that will come. In fact, I was reading that lifestyle inflation, which includes all of this, has outstripped the price rise of essential commodities every year since 2019. So I come back to my original point that, savings and investment are two very different concepts, right? So please consider intentional investing as the only way you will manage to live a comfortable life and achieve all of your goals. But exactly what are these goals that we keep talking about? So let me again take a pop quiz. Are they, let me see. If you know the answer, you know the answer. Which are the two goals that Indians and to some extent Asians have that the rest of the world does not have? If anybody wants to type in, any of your answers or comments, please do type in. I will have a look at it. But since we cannot have any to and fro, let me tell you that it is child's marriage and child's education. So the world over, children themselves are finding ways to either take a loan or in some form of fashion a scholarship or a loan to fund their education, and for the marriage as well, they either borrow or they get married on what they have. um so anyway, this is aside. So financial planning is not just about numbers, right? So we started off by saying that there are all these dreams that you have and you need to attach a number to it. So, think of it like this, right? So, what are your dreams really? So, that is going to be the starting place. List out all your dreams. Do you want to retire at 55 and open a cafe? Or do you want to send your kids abroad to college? Do you want to own your dream home or travel every year or some such? Every life goal needs to be listed down. You must have a timeline, which is in how many years or in which year in the future you want to achieve that goal. And what is the number, the inflation adjusted amount which will be required for that goal? So, this is how a vague dream will first become a financial goal. And from a financial goal, it is easy to transform it into a real achievable plan, right? So, that is how financial planning will actually work. So, how do you actually sit and divide your goals? So think of it, like a bucket approach, right? So you have three buckets. One is the first is the short-term bucket, which is anywhere from 1 to 3 years. Then you have the medium-term bucket for 3 to 5 years, and the long-term bucket, which is anything longer than 5 years. And you need to start putting all your goals in these three buckets. It has to fit in one of these three buckets for sure, right? So the first bucket, which is the short term, will probably have things like buying a gadget, or you want to take a vacation, or build an emergency fund. The medium term bucket, which is the second bucket, you can add things like, oh, I have to make the down payment on my house, or I'm looking to switch careers, so I want to create a little bit of a buffer for myself. And the long term bucket will have things like retirement, children's education, even children's marriage. So it is very, very important that we use this bucket approach to actually set down and all our goals, so that this will also give us a priority, right? So if there is some emergency, that, okay, these are my goals. Which do I need to postpone? Which do I need to sort of bring down in value? So on and so forth. It is easier to do unemotional, sort of take unemotional decisions like that. I want to show you a little bit. It's just an illustration about why a goal is so important, because even when we commit to a goal, there is always this tendency that, oh, I know I have committed for 10 years or 15 years or 30 years in this case, but oh, but my family is really insisting they want to go on a holiday, let me just withdraw a little bit. When I come back, I will add it. Now, I don't know how many people over here would have faced this issue, but I know that a lot of people, do think like that. So I want to just take a moment to highlight to you what is the importance of this goal. So, suppose you're starting off with the initial investment of 10 lakhs. So, as of today, I am investing 10 lakhs in an equity mutual fund for a period of 30 years. Okay. I'm assuming that I'm only going to get 10% return. So this is a 10% is a very conservative estimate, but just I don't want to, sort of build up hype. So I'm taking the most conservative number, which is 10%. Okay. So you start with your investment journey, and somewhere down the line, you're like, oh, my daughter has just finished her class 12, and I want to gift her an iPhone. I'm just going to withdraw a little bit of money and buy this phone for her. A few years later, you're like, I have been so disciplined for 19 years. I've been investing my money regularly. I think I can afford to take out 3 lakhs because my family wants to go on a vacation. Again, few years later, you want to do a home renovation. It's just a question of 2 lakhs. You don't think it's a big deal, because after all, your money has been compounding for 22 years. You have built up quite a sizable kitty. Um, Kids want to buy a new car, they want to upgrade the car. Everybody's got an SUV. Dad, why are we still driving this car? Let's change the car. And you think it's really not a big deal. Everything else done, there's some emergency. So you take out money for that. Eventually, when you reach the end of your 30 years, you have still collected about 1.17 crores. And you're quite happy. I started off with 10 lakhs. Despite whatever I withdrew, I have collected more than 1 crores. And this sounds good because we are so used to Indians love this concept of real estate, right? We are so used to thinking of real estate returns in absolute terms that we want to use the same concept in mutual funds. So, you're like, I bought this house for 10 lakhs. Now it is worth 1 crore and it's amazing. But when we think of mutual funds normally, we think we get the return in CAGR, right? Compounded annual growth rate. And we look at it and we think, oh, it's only 12% or it's only 14%. And, 1 crore, my house value has become 1 crore, sounds so grand. And 12% and 14% sounds so meaningless. But the 12-14% is annual compounding, right? The real estate that you're seeing is the absolute value. So, which is why when you look at it in this case as well, that you started with 10 lakhs, but you have collected 1 crore, you feel that, you've done something great. But you forget what is the value of that 16 lakhs which you randomly withdrew. So, collectively, the money that you took out from your investment during your 30-year journey was only 16 lakhs. But the opportunity cost of that 16 lakhs is 57 lakhs. So had you not taken that money out, you would be actually, your kitty would be close to about 1.75 crores. So this is the importance of goal-based investing, is that it actually keeps you on track. Okay, it first of all removes this tendency that you want to keep withdrawing. So if you just, if I ask you, what are you investing for? And you tell me, oh, I'm investing to create wealth. Well, if you think of, I'm just investing to create wealth, then you will keep withdrawing. But if you have a goal in mind, like if I'm investing in, say, this SBI Children's Benefit Fund for my son. Now, of course, it has a 5-year lock-in, but once the lock-in ends, even if I want, I will not be able to withdraw money from it because I'll keep thinking that, am I taking it out from my child's education? Likewise, if I have a goal attached to it, if I want to buy a house or retire, then I will never want to, sort of take out money from that. Um, so this is why, it's very, very important for all of us to invest according to the goals that we set out and how to assign a number to it. There is a little bit more time. I had actually, thought this would take enough time, but since we have time, I want to just, talk a little bit about something else that, we have started, we use Google a lot. Like, at least I use Google a lot, right? Anytime somebody utters a word, my first tendency is go to Google and check what they're talking about, what they have said. But, in terms of factual data, Google may be very good. But there are many aspects of financial planning which, Google, the technical answer that Google gives you can actually hurt your portfolio rather than benefit, right? So, especially this, things like this, like, would you go and Google, why did the market fall today? What happened? What went wrong in the sense, like, so it will give you something, or FIIs have pulled out and so, and you start panicking and you're like, oh, if FIIs are pulling out, maybe should I pull out? Or it'll tell you so and so country has declared war, or they have seized the existing trade agreements, etc. And you get really panicky. You're like, if all this is happening, what is going to happen? Going to be the fate of my investment? But decisions taken at this time actually will hurt your portfolio. This is what we call the emotional decisions, right? So Google will tell you why Sensex fell, but it will not be able to tell you that taking a portfolio decision at this time will actually harm you more. So, last year there was so much panic from September onwards because people are like, the market is just going on falling. And, I mean, tell me here if there were people who really panicked in those 72 days, and you were probably calling up your distributor and whatnot. But you just zoom out a little bit, right? So if this 72 days, I expand it or zoom it out to 72 months, tell me if it is equally scary for you, right? Not anymore. Now let's zoom it out a little bit more, right? So this is just 72 months. If you zoom it out a little bit more, does this look scary at all? Right? So what may be scary or volatile for a day over the long term actually eases out, right? So, and look at over here, you will be able to find times where you might have thought that you were actually panicking. But look at it that there every kind of mountain of worry has been surpassed by the market. The other question that people love, when should I invest? Has the market fallen? Is this a good time? Should I invest next week? Should I invest today? But you cannot time the market. Even the best fund managers will never be able to time the market. Spending time in the market is more important, right? There is something called the cost of delay. So, say there are three friends, each of them start investing, but they invest with a gap of 3 years, right? So Archana starts investing at the age of 25, Bipasha waits another 5 years till 30, and Chandni waits another 5 years to 35, right? They all are doing investments of 10,000 rupees. Again, I'm assuming that the return is only 10%. They all finish their investment at the age of 50, right? So if Archana started investing at 25 and she has to finish investing at 50, she has 25 years to invest. Vipasha likewise has only 20 years to invest because she started investing 5 years late. And Chandni will have only 15 years to invest because she started investing 10 years later than Archana. The total amount invested will also vary for each because the time period is different for the SIP. So the final value after investing 30 lakhs, Archana has created wealth of 1.33 crores. Vipasha invested 24 lakhs. So just marginally less than Archana, right? Only 6 lakhs less than Archana. But she has managed to create wealth of only 76 lakhs, which is over 56 lakhs less than Archana. Chandni, on the other hand, invested 18 lakhs and she has managed to collect only 41 lakhs. So this is what we call the cost of delay. The cost of, the cost of inaction is something which we rarely discuss, right? A lot of people keep asking me, when should I invest? When should I invest? Don't worry about when you should invest. Worry about why have I not invested till now and today. The best time to invest was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. And if you really want to know which is the best time to invest, my answer is 3 to 4 days after you have received your salary. Other than that, as a retail investor, as somebody who has to invest for the long term, it should not matter to us when we are investing. The other thing that we are obsessed about is this performance. Which is the best performing fund? Sumaira, can you tell me which is the best performing fund? And when I don't tell people, then they get really mad at me and they think I'm very arrogant. But the point is that it is not possible for me. Like we saw that, the fund is actually the result, the best fund for you is the result of this process of, linking your goals, assigning a value, creating a plan, and then finding a product. If I randomly tell you, okay, fine, invest in so and so fund, I'm doing a disservice to you, right? So and in any case, we should not be so obsessed with the performance. Have you even thought about what is the real return? Right? Because what has happened in the past, if I tell you the best performing fund now, can I give you a guarantee that it will be the best performing fund tomorrow? I cannot, right? Rather than that, I should focus on real returns. So what are real returns? Look at this. These are people who are just like, all of us. They live in a small town. They're saving a portion of their income in fixed deposits. Savings are growing, although a little bit slowly. And, at some point they realize, though, that they probably won't have enough to meet all their future needs because the cost of everything is going up. We spoke about that lifestyle inflation, right? At the same time, the salaries, the wage increase in India is not, keeping pace with the lifestyle inflation. So, returns what we get if you say that, I'm very conservative, I'm happy if I get 5% returns, but you have seen that inflation is at 2.8%, right? So it must be 5% minus that inflation rate, which is 2.82%, minus the taxes that you are going to end up paying, minus any fees that you have to pay. And then what is left is your real return. So rather than chasing performance, it's time to focus on, finding out actually what your portfolio is earning, what are your real returns. So if return is 5% and inflation tax, etc., everything is 4%, so that 1% which is left is your positive real return. However, if inflation and taxes are more than your return, that means it is called negative real return. So in India, for a long time, we had negative real returns. Now is not the case. But this is something we must be very cognizant of, that every return that hits your bank, please analyze and see whether or not that return you have generated is actually negative or positive.